It's Absolutely Auburn, a place where we'll talk about all things Auburn, Maine, because we're in the middle of it all. The City of Auburn's communications team is dedicated to helping you connect with city government and learn everything you need to know about Auburn, our city, our people, our events, and our community. Welcome to Absolutely Auburn.
In today's episode, we wrap up our 4-part series on Auburn's mayor and city council. You're going to learn the difference between a counselor at large and a ward counselor. And we have our 2 at-large counselors, Belinda, Gerry, and Adam Platz joining us. So tune in. Welcome back to Absolutely Auburn. I'm your host, Jenn Bonig, and joining me as always in the studio is our fabulous producer, Abby Bourne.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, Abby. And today is the final episode of our very interesting 4-part series on Auburn's mayor and city council. Our city council is comprised of the mayor and 7 council members. And today we welcome Auburn city councilors at large, Belinda, Gerry. Hello, Belinda.
Good morning.
And Adam Platz.
Hello, thank you for having us.
Welcome. Now, counselors at large are a little different from ward counselors. Our ward counselors represent the specific ward in which you live in. The 5 voting wards each elect 1 counselor. And then our 2 at-large members are elected by citywide voters. So they represent the entire city, not just a specific ward. So a little different. And Councilor Gerry, you are currently serving your 8th consecutive term, City Clerk Sue Clements-Delaire shared with me. And prior to that, back in the early 2000s, you had also served, I think she said 3 terms. And you also have served in the state legislature as well, correct?
Yes, ma'am. In 94, I got privileged to be elected to the Maine state legislature, and I was able to win election 2 more times for a total of 3 terms. I promised that when I ran, that I would only serve 3 instead of the 4, because I was a firm believer in term limits. Mm-hmm. And so in 2000, I became a city councilor at Ward 5. And then I ended up taking a break after a couple terms. Then when I came back, I ended up running for at-large. And I've been off and on the council since 2000.
Wow, that's quite a legacy of service. So what keeps you coming back and serving the residents of Auburn in this way?
Well, first, at-large city councilors, we're backup for the wards. In other words, if our public, our residents, need to reach out to a counselor and they can't reach them, or if they have issues with that counselor, then they can, come and call us or come meet with us. And then if there's meetings to be called in the various wards, then we act as backup and team members of that counselor that's called the council meeting. The neighborhood meeting. So we're there so that all citizens and residents are represented both equally and fairly. And the reason I keep coming back is because of the strong service that is in my family. My dad taught me by example. He was proud of his country and of his city, and he served the service as well as my grandparents and my grandfathers and my brothers. And so I have not been able to get in the service, and this is my way of giving back to my community, which is my family.
Excellent. And that's an interesting way to look at the at-large council position, kind of as backup to the ward counselors. I didn't think of it that way. So thank you for sharing that, because I didn't think of it that way.
Well, I think, that makes a lot of sense, because I can imagine, especially in Maine, where our cities are all pretty small, you might have personal relationships with counselors, and it's nice to have the ward counselors as, another person to have a relationship with. If, whether or not you have a good relationship with your ward counselor, you can always try and forge another relationship with the at-large counselor. That's part, like you said, Councilor Gerry, that's part of the purpose of them, which, I hadn't thought about that either, but makes total sense.
Yes. And a long legacy of service. And We've talked about the importance of that and people getting involved. And Councilor Platz, you were elected to council this past November, and you also welcomed your first child. So congratulations in the same month. You know, you
busy month.
You got a lot going on. And then you also co-own a business, Jar Cannabis, and serve as its chief financial officer, CFO. So new baby, new counselor, running a business. Why the heck did you decide to run for council?
Because I hate sleeping. Why did I decide to run for council? I don't know. I've always had it. I think I've always been someone who can juggle a lot of things. I can kind of compartmentalize different projects and responsibilities. I think I've always thought about giving back to my community in the same way that Councilor Gerry mentioned, in the sense of like service. I was brought up here. I left for a couple years and I came screaming home. I love Auburn. I love the school systems. I love working here. You know, I think our country, our world, it's made up of communities just like this. And those communities you don't get the most out of them unless you have people giving their time and energy back to the community. And so yes. I think people do it in lots of different ways. You've got counselors, you've got volunteers who help run our elections, you've got volunteers who help clean and beautify the city. You get people doing it in tons of ways. But this was my way. I think coming from a business background, I was excited of kind of the meetings format and the deliberative format of city council, of getting things done, trying to be efficient, trying to save money. All those things are things that I get to do in my day to day.
And so how are you balancing everything? Still little sleep?
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to the equation of how many hours of sleep you can get. I do a lot of work between 6 and midnight. A lot of my constituency work is at night. You know, we put the baby down at 6 and try to get her till 1 or 2 before she needs to be fed. And so I'll go to sleep, and then my wife and I trade off. And so a lot of it's good teamwork. But,
yes, very important in those that first year.
Yeah.
Very important teamwork. So it is early in your first term, but when you're focused on that council work, like you said, kind of that evening quiet time at home, what does that workload typically look like?
I think the workload for a counselor just in general, it's pretty cyclical. You get the agenda items and the agenda notes on a specific day leading up to a meeting. And, so that is, to review that takes 2 to 5 hours, depending on how quickly or slowly you read through a 100-page packet. I'll usually do that on a weekend. And, other than that, it's getting back to constituents. I think, Councilor Gerry and I have the privilege of representing the entire city. So that means we get a lot more emails and phone calls. I think one of the things I tried to run on was really simple, just getting back to people quickly. So, I make sure to check emails daily. I make sure that if someone has a comment, whether it's serious or not, it's, they want to hear back from a counselor. That's important. So that's kind of my schedule, is every night, log into email, make sure I'm staying up with correspondences. And then every week there's a kind of a real dig deep session of thinking about the upcoming votes, ordinances, policies, all that stuff.
Yeah, those council packets can be lengthy sometimes. Sure.
And was that important to you running as an at-large counselor that was instead of a ward counselor, for example? Did you want to represent the whole city of Auburn, or what was that decision look like?
I don't know if I have a preference one way or the other. I think that what led me to run at large, it did have a lot to do with my personal reaction to rezoning of agricultural land upon which I live. As it turns out, ag land is across the entire city. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of the reason I went at large. That's not to say, sure, I'd be very happy representing a ward of people as well. Yep. But that was the genesis of what led me to run.
That makes a lot of sense. I think it's interesting to find that information. So,
and Councilor Gerry, obviously you've been doing this for a little while now. So I'm sure you've seen and heard all sorts of things as a council member and a former state legislator. What does a typical day look like for you when you're doing city council work?
First thing after getting up and having my diet soda, I open all my emails to see what residents have to say. And if I can get back to them, if it's an easy answer, I'll do that. If not, I'll get back to them and say, I need to get a little bit more information. I need to talk with this person or that person. I look at the city calendar to see where the other board and commission meetings are. And if there's something, I look at their packets. They're throughout the week. I mean, they're all scheduled at different times. If it's something that piques my interest or some interest of people I know, I try to get that information out. Usually, when constituents call, they sometimes want you to solve a big issue. But sometimes because we act as a group, as a team, we can't always do everything as a single counselor. And sometimes that's not what they want to hear. But if somebody needs to come in to talk with a department, I'm more than willing to come in, sit down with them, to hear what's going on, and to offer a little bit of advice if there's anything I know about that topic. Sometimes when people call, they know that you can't solve everything, and sometimes they just want somebody to hear them, to listen to them, to at least validate their concerns. And if you can address them, that's great, but sometimes at least just that comfort of knowing that they're not alone. I mean, I get calls. I sleep with my phone, and so I can get calls after 1, 2, 3 in the morning, and sometimes they just want to just talk. I had one kind lady, she was a new mother. That's an experience I kind of didn't experience. I helped my brother raise his kids. But me, she was picking my brain of what she could do to quiet her little one. So I thought all the things that we used to do to get my brother's kids quiet, or for whatever reason, and I tried to talk with her, at least walk her through it, because she was going crazy with the baby. And she was a single mother. I mean, and then I've also had people that have had flooded basements. I've had a person that called and said, I've got to take my mother to the hospital. I'm not sure what's wrong, but we can't leave our dad. There's no social agency that will come on a minute's notice. Do you know what I can do? I said, yeah. I said, give me a minute. I'll be over. I've sat with people just, to make sure that they were took care of so that they could take care of those that were in need. I also deliver groceries. I'm a big fan and proponent of the PAL Senior Grab and Go grocery program. On a weekly basis, I help deliver 30 bags of groceries.
Wow.
Anything I can do within the city, if you get a constituent call, I'm gone. Unless it's a council meeting, and then I'm not quite so gone.
Well, you're gone. You're just gone to council.
Well, yes, but I mean, if somebody calls and says, the roof is leaking, what am I going to do? I says, we'll figure it out once that council meeting's done.
Well, it's clearly, though, you're very community involved and community oriented. I mean, it speaks with your years of service, but also, like you said, like boots on the ground work. Clearly, you've done it. And I think that's really admirable for, I don't know if city councilors across other cities or states could say that. So, yeah, it's something to be proud of.
I'm also part of the age-friendly group with Councilor Walker. We put on events, and we try to make our city's stuff more accessible for people of all ages, incomes, and physical abilities. I mean, we put on free Thanksgiving dinners. We put on Christmas parties. We've done clothes drives. We've done food drives. And we just love our community, and our community is our family. And when our family is in need, we're there for them.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And like you said earlier, sometimes people just want to know when they reach out that there is someone who's going to listen. You may not be able to solve the problem or give them the answer, that they might want to hear or that they're looking for. But I think to know that they can reach out and have that conversation is so important, because I think a lot of times nowadays people feel very disconnected from
their legislators or
all of it. I think it's surprising, but it can be very isolating sometimes.
I think that's the reality of I mean, I know this isn't supposed to be well, it is politics, not partisan politics. It's
Right.
municipal politics, but a lot of it's not about what's right or wrong. It's about having a connection to the people who represent you. And so, a lot of times people spend time and money and hours, is this the best development for this? Does it make money? Or is this, is preserving this land better? Whatever, all the minutia, everyone thinks about that. But really, all that matters is that everyone who is a citizen thinks they need a say, right? And so it's kind of one of the fundamental pieces of all this.
Yes.
That's absolutely true. And it's something that we have touched on in previous podcasts, that local politics is the collective of a city coming together and trying to, make it better for everyone, make it accessible for everyone, like you said, Councilor Gerry. So I always enjoy these conversations with councilors, because politics in general across the United States is not, I mean, I know that city council can get heated as well. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but I think in comparison to national politics, local politics is where you do boots on the ground work and where you kind of just try to come together as a community and make things better. It doesn't have to be partisan and doesn't have to be filled with vitriol,
We're all living together in this community, so we need to make the best of it.
Exactly.
So, Councilor Gerry, what's the most interesting part of your job as a counselor? And I mean, God bless you for answering the phone at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. I'm not sure if I would personally, but yeah. I'm happy someone does.
Meeting people, talking with people, meeting Auburn residents, or even visitors, going places where I can blend in. I'm not a real party girl. I mean, I don't like going to the chamber breakfast. Sorry, chamber. I don't like to go to the big tie and fancy dinners and suppers. My comfort level and my most fun is when I go to the National Night Out.
Yes.
I love going to events that are, open to everybody. And it doesn't cost a big ticket to get in there.
Yep. National Night Out is just one of several community events that we do, both here in downtown Auburn as well as at the rec department. And like you said, an Age Friendly hosts some of those events over at the senior community center as well.
The drag is we're not doing the same events that took place when I was a lot younger. I remember the Little World's Fair, which was like at the end of the summer. We met out to the men's club out near Lake Auburn. And it was a day event where kids could play on those little real small amusements. They were games of chance where you could win either a quarter or a dime or bags of groceries. There was bingo games, and then there was a bean dinner, but it was where the community could meet. At one point, it was over at the lake until it started polluting the water. We used to have a fantastic 4th of July. We used to have a great balloon festival. I miss making memories like that. We need to bring that back. I feel Auburn needs to bring back events that are family friendly, that don't cost an arm and a leg. I can take my kids or my nephews to the balloon festival. It costs me $30 to $50 just to buy all the food that they may need throughout the day. The National Night Out doesn't cost anything. You get good cooked hot dogs and popcorn and drink, and you can pick up the kids can pick up trinkets, grown-ups the information. We need to do more of it. In the recent years, we've put on events, but it's more for the grown-ups and more or less drinking. And you can't really bring kids to drinking events as much as a lot of people like to go to our New Year's Eve party. I would love to see us be able to do a dual something where we could bring our families and the kids, and then they could go home, and then the grown-ups could still party on and do their thing and socialize.
Well, I do know the Auburn Public Library has been doing a lot of great programming for kids, and they actually did do a New Year's Eve party for kids. I think it was the day before New Year's because the library was closed on New Year's, but I mean, I think having family-friendly events is something we definitely want to be able to do in Auburn. But I also think there are some great organizations like the library, and Auburn Rec does a lot of great events for little kids as well. But yeah, family-friendly events is certainly a priority for us in Auburn too.
United New Auburn does a lot with Councilor Walker.
Yes.
He puts on a Happy Halloween to area, well, it used to be downtown businesses. Now it's over in Anniversary Park, which is great. And they started with getting 300 to 500 kids, and I think they're over 800 kids. Happens during the daytime, and families can come. People of any age can dress up. They get a prize for the best costumes, and everybody has fun. We need more like that. I miss not having the dances we used to have, the street dances, or that are held like maybe in the backyard of schools. I miss the block parties. I miss the gatherings. I'm hoping with this council, which seems to be more wanting to do stuff, maybe we can pull that back. I know a lot of the new councilors, they want to start up like Councilor Walker has and do their own ward meetings, which would be great. I mean, heck, I'd go to them, and I know Councilor Platz would try to make an appearance as well.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be rolling out the community trailer.
Oh yeah,
this summer, which could help with some of that. It's a community trailer to host like a block party style event in your neighborhood, anywhere in Auburn. And it's got tables and chairs and I think a couple easy ups. And I don't know, there was lots of conversation about a variety of things in this trailer, but you could request that trailer. It would get dropped in the neighborhood. You can use the supplies that are in there, so you don't have to run out and kind of buy or try to rent that stuff, or, kind of, I don't want to say pillage your neighborhood, but kind of talk to your neighbors and see, okay, who has what can we pull together? You kind of get this trailer and it would show up and you could host that sort of block party or neighborhood party. And yeah, I think it isn't like it was, not even probably 20 years ago. I remember growing up and yeah, the neighbors' kids would come over, we'd go over there. Even my husband would say, well, when the streetlights came on, he's not from here, but so he had streetlights. I was going to say. But when the streetlights came on, it was time to go home for dinner. And yeah, and I didn't have streetlights either on Allen Pond Road and Green, but we just cut through the woods of each other's houses and we're like, okay, it's getting dark. We got to go home for dinner. So yeah, I definitely think that it's looking at neighborhood and community, I guess, in a different way now. Councilor Platz, you're newer to this role. So what has been the most interesting part for you so far?
Yeah, so far, I'm really interested and fascinated with just the way it all works at this stage. I'm still learning and I'm still meeting constituents, and I hope in a couple of years I have some very exciting constituent stories. But a lot of what I'm doing is learning how to do this. Mm-hmm. So first thing that's been really interesting to me is I've loved meeting each of the councilors and learning, everyone's coming at this from a different angle, but the way we've been working together so far has been great. And it's been a really great experience. I think anytime you have a number of people who just by definition of the roles have different beliefs, but can get along and get things done, that's a pretty cool situation. Mm-hmm. So that's been really interesting and exciting so far. The second thing has been all of these committees that we get thrown on. It's one of the, I think as a freshman in this process, I was naive to it. I didn't realize how much extra time gets thrown on you with these committees. But at the same time, it's fascinating. For someone who likes to learn how this all works, it's kind of cool. So, I got put on the appointment committee, which is the committee that helps parse through applications for different open positions within committees. Mm-hmm. And then I was also placed on the school committee, which unbeknownst to me, adds another 2 committees on top of that. So I'm on the school committee, the school finance committee, and the school facilities committee.
Oh, wow.
I know, it's a lot.
Okay.
I sometimes have to tell my wife I'm just going out for a walk, but really I'm going to a meeting.
Right.
not
I'll be
true.
back in a couple hours.
No, I tell her the truth. But no, so it's been a lot, but it's been, to answer the question, it's been very interesting. I feel, you grow up, and I did grow up in Auburn, so I'm a beneficiary of all the services that exist here, but you don't understand who's making that happen.
Mm-hmm.
The hundreds of employees that are making that happen. And that's pretty neat. When you serve on these committees, you're hearing about budgets, and you're hearing about specific names of people who are doing great jobs, and that's really interesting.
So what are you most looking forward to over the next 2 years serving on council?
I think over the next 2 years, I am excited to learn how to get things done. I think that it's important to listen and learn, in these early months, but eventually I want to get better at taking a constituent's email and understanding how to turn that into action. Who's the right person to talk to at the city level? Ultimately, that is our role. We're supposed to be facilitators of constituent commentary or complaints, whatever it may be. I think I can get better at that. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, yeah, I think it'll be, just meeting who the players of City Hall, meeting, knowing how to make those connections just comes with time.
And Councilor Gerry, what are you most looking forward to over the next 2 years?
Probably continuing work on our community gardens and expand it. I'm a great proponent of trying to fight food insecurity with the COVID and gas prices and the prices at the grocery stores. We need to have locally grown food in our backyard, so it's not transported all over the place, and it will be affordable for people to have. Another thing is to help fund the PAL Center and their food pantry. They help well over 200 families, as well as seniors. I'm also looking forward, sort of helping the homeless, the needy, those that need services. I know the city can't provide everything. That's where we as a community, we need to get out of our comfort zone and reach out and try to help them, as well as our churches and other civic groups. What happened in the last couple of weeks of the shelter over in Lewiston, it's a great first step, but it's not a perfect step, and we need to start tackling that in the next few weeks in the budget in order to provide funding to continue that on. I'm also wanting to see if we can get our planning and permitting and community development team to, instead of giving incentives to those that want to build apartments, which we need in Auburn, making all these market rate. I would like to see if they can come up with incentives to help builders build these, what they call attainable housing, which means you can afford to rent or own with what you're making for salaries. I mean, most people cannot afford the $1,200 to $1,600 or $1,800 a month for rent. And so I'm looking forward to trying to figure creative ways in order to bring that forth. And like Councilor Platz here, I am enheartened by this new council. It looks like we are all getting out of the box. We're out of our comfort zone, and we're willing to let that barrier down to try to work together to form creative solutions, as well as to keep our tax rate low. I know that's another key component of keeping people here.
Yes, definitely.
But I love to hear. I'm a renter, so I don't rent in Auburn. But I live in Poland. But as a renter who maybe someday would like to live in Auburn because I work here, it's heartening to hear you say that. I know it's a priority of the whole council to make affordable housing a priority. But I like attainable housing. I hadn't heard that before, and that's makes sense to me. So yeah, it'd be cool to see what you guys do with that.
That's the only way we're going to be able to keep the families intact. Right now, we have kids graduating from high school. They may go off to college. They want to come back and be around their parents. They want to, if they have grandkids, be able to have them interact with their families. But what's happening is the young people, when they come back, they cannot live here. And all we're getting is these new transplants, which are fine. I mean, we've always had a history of welcoming newcomers from any place to our city. And I want that to continue. But also I want to grow our population by those that have lived here all their lives.
Yeah, it should be able to do both. You should be able to welcome new people to a city as well as provide space for those who have had, local connections here for a long time.
And those, whether they're returning or just want to stay.
Yeah, exactly.
To know that they can stay. So, well, I don't want to say lighten the mood a little bit, but I guess on a less serious note, this is a question we ask all of our guests. What's your favorite thing about Auburn? And it doesn't have to be related to City Hall, city government, none of that. What is your favorite thing about Auburn? And either one of Councilor Platz, you want to go first?
You sat up in your chair ready, so.
Sam's Turkey Italian extra pickles.
Okay.
But beyond that,
that's because you didn't eat breakfast.
Yeah, so
now I'm getting hungry.
You've got sandwiches on the brain.
When my sister lives in Texas, when she comes home, the first thing she does is get a Sam's Turkey with extra pickles.
Gotta have pickles.
I love the geographic and humanistic diversity here. I think that geographically we occupy a very unique portion of Maine, and that we've got green, we've got lakes, and we've got hills. We are the foothills to the White Mountains. People don't really think about that geographically. So I love that. But just people-wise, I think we have a very wide breadth of experience. This is a big city, right? Lewis and Auburn, and I'll say Lewis and Auburn. We got 60,000 bright minds who live and work, and and there's a lot going on here. And people have different experiences. And I think when you are in a place with people with different experiences, that makes you a better person. So I like that about Auburn.
Councilor Gerry, what's your favorite thing about Auburn?
Our rich history. We took pride in our community, in our city, especially during our time of war. We did a lot of factory making boots and sneakers and shoes that was shipped to our men and ladies in the service. Our employees, they had strong work ethics. They wouldn't quit no matter what they needed to do. They carried it forward. In other words, if they needed to get X number of shoes out, they did, or products, as well as other textiles. I'm proud of our sense of community. We're willing to take care of our neighbors. It's kind of a little bit shadowed right now with COVID and other little things, but more and more people are now getting back in their comfort level to reaching out and to help provide stuff for their neighbors. Heck, my dad and my grandparents, if they knew a neighbor needed some food or needed something, they'd add another cup or two of water in the soup to stretch it, and they would offer it to them, as well as the breads and whatever else that they may have. I know my dad, he would go without meals if he knew that my brother or I didn't have anything to eat. And many times he ate crackers and milk because that was the only thing we had. Mm-hmm. I just love Auburn. I love the diverse people. I just would like to get more events so that we can bring us all together as one again.
Well, we'll see what we can do about that. Abby and I.
You're talking to the right people.
We'll have to think about some different ways that maybe we can do that here over the coming months. Mm-hmm. And just a reminder for everyone, you can find contact information for all of our council members along with the mayor on the city's website, auburnmaine.gov. You can also find council meeting agendas and minutes, along with those committee meetings, agendas, minutes. All of that stuff lives on the city's website, auburnmaine.gov. And don't forget, you can also watch city meetings, because they can be riveting, folks, I'm telling you, on our YouTube channel, which, again, you can find the link to that through the city's website. So, and you can also, in addition to reaching out to the council members, you can always share feedback or comments anytime by emailing comments@auburnmaine.gov. And that includes for this podcast right here. We want to know that you're listening. So please feel free. Email us. Tell us you're listening. Tell us what you want to hear.
Be nice.
Yeah, be nice.
And city emails are subject to, what is it called?
Freedom of information.
Yeah. So, that
right.
too. But.
So as she said, be nice. Councilors Gerry and Platz, thank you for joining us today. We truly appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Pleasure being here.
Thanks for joining us on Absolutely Auburn. You can find all things Auburn, Maine at auburnmaine.gov and goauburn.me. You can also listen to us anytime, anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio, just to name a few. The City of Auburn's communications team wants to remind you that Absolutely Auburn is the only official podcast for the City of Auburn, Maine.